Have you ever wondered how your favorite live show gets from the studio downtown all the way to that giant broadcast antenna perched on a faraway mountain? It seems like magic, right? Well, that invisible, high-stakes journey is exactly what we're diving into today. It's the unsung hero of broadcasting, and we're going to pull back the curtain on how it all works.
All right, before we jump in, just a quick heads up. This is part 20 of our big 40-part series on modern broadcast studios by Virtualization Options LLC. And today, we are zeroing in on Chapter 20, which is all about studio-to-transmitter links. So here's what we've got on tap. We'll start with the Great Divide, then figure out how to bridge the gap. We'll talk about why the connection needs to be an unbreakable link, check out the return signal, and wrap up with how broadcast is basically becoming IT. All right, let's kick things off with our first section, the Great Divide. See, before we can appreciate the solution, we really need to understand the problem these links were invented to solve in the first place. And it all comes down to this one really simple question. Why on earth are TV studios and their giant broadcast antennas almost never in the same place? I mean, they're often miles and miles apart.
And here's the fundamental conflict laid out perfectly. The studio, it has to be downtown, right? It's got to be easy for staff, talent, and guests to get to. But the transmitter, well, that thing needs to be on the highest piece of land it can find, a mountaintop, a super tall building, to get the best possible signal out to everyone. So you've got these two critical needs that are just completely at odds. And that creates this big physical gap that somehow we have to bridge. So how do you cross that divide? Well, that's what Section 2 is all about, bridging the gap. Let's break down the three main high-tech ways it's done.
Okay, first up, we've got the classic, the microwave STL. The easiest way to think about this is like a super-focused invisible beam of radio waves. It's a direct, point-to-point shot, firing the signal from a dish at the studio straight to another dish at the transmitter. No wires, just a straight line through the air. And this picture shows you the one absolute, non-negotiable rule for microwave links. They have to be able to see each other. You need a totally clear, unobstructed path. Seriously, a new skyscraper going up right in the middle of that path? That is literally an engineer's worst nightmare.
So what's the upside? Well, a huge one is that these things run on licensed frequencies, so they're protected from interference. Plus, and this is a biggie, you're totally independent. No paying a telecom company every month. The broadcaster owns the whole link, end to end. And on top of that, they've got tons of capacity, more than enough to handle a bunch of HD shows at once.
All right, solution number 2, fiber optics. If microwave is a focused beam, this is the superhighway. We're talking about a dedicated physical cable that sends the signal as pulses of light through tiny strands of glass. The result? Insanely high bandwidth and pretty much perfect signal quality.
The best thing about fiber is just the sheer amount of bandwidth. It's enormous. You can send uncompressed video, which is the absolute gold standard for quality. And since it's light in a cable, it's totally immune to radio interference. But there's always a but, right? The catch is you have to either own or lease that fiber cable, that dark fiber. And that can mean some serious monthly bills and being tied to a telecom company.
And this leads us to the new kid on the block, the super flexible option, the IP-based STL. What this does is pretty clever. It takes your broadcast signal, chops it up into data packets, just like an email or a Netflix stream, and sends it over a regular computer network. And honestly, the flexibility is a total game changer. You can use a regular business internet connection, a private network, even a bunch of cell signals bonded together. And that can save a ton of money. The challenge, though, is that public networks can be, well, unpredictable. That's why these systems rely on really smart protocols like SRT. That stands for Secure Reliable Transport, which can magically fix errors and lost packets on the fly to keep the stream rock solid. So this chart really breaks it down nicely, doesn't it? Microwave, you get total independence, but you better have a clear line of sight. Fiber, unbeatable quality, but you're paying for it and relying on someone else. And IP, super flexible and way cheaper, but you have to be smart about keeping it reliable. It's a classic engineering puzzle. There's no single best answer, just the best answer for a specific situation. Okay, so we've got these three great options, but no matter which one you pick, there is one thing that is absolutely non-negotiable. And that brings us to Section 3, the unbreakable link. We're talking about the never-ending quest for perfection. What does perfection look like? It looks like this number, 99.999%. You'll hear engineers call this 5 nines of uptime. And why is that the magic number? Because think about it. In live broadcasting,
There's no loading screen, no please wait message. If that link fails, even for a second, the station is dead air, gone. The stakes are just incredibly high. So how in the world do you hit a number like that? The answer is redundancy and automatic failover. So picture this. Your main link, maybe a fiber line, gets cut by a construction crew. The system instantly detects that signal loss. And without skipping a beat, it flips over to the backup link. Maybe it's a microwave shot. This happens in seconds. And the best part? The viewer at home, sitting on their couch, they have absolutely no idea anything went wrong. Okay, but here's something you might not know. These links aren't just about shipping the show out to the transmitter. There's a whole other side to it. Let's get into that in Section 4, the return signal. Because this isn't a one-way street. It's a full-on conversation. That's right. The data flowing back from the remote transmitter site to the main studio is in many ways just as crucial. It's what allows engineers to have total oversight without having to be there in person. So what kind of stuff is coming back? Well, you're getting all kinds of critical info. Things like equipment status reports and telemetry data, detailed diagnostics. You can even get live video feeds from security cameras at the site. And because of all that, engineers back at the studio can send commands to control the equipment remotely. It's a huge deal because it means you don't have to send people out to a remote mountaintop every time you need to flip a switch. Okay, this all leads us beautifully into our final section where we're going to tie all these threads together. Section 5, broadcast becomes IT. Because really, the story of the STL is the story of the entire broadcast industry in miniature. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. The convergence of broadcast and IT extends fully to STL systems, where the distinction between broadcast engineering and network engineering has effectively disappeared. I mean, think about that. Running one of these modern IP-based links, that's not just like IT work anymore. It is IT work. It's network engineering, plain and simple. And for a lot of you listening, this is the really important part. If you have a background in network design, in building reliable systems, in troubleshooting complex networks, those skills aren't just useful for broadcasting anymore. They are now at the very heart of it. Everything you know is directly transferable and totally essential to keeping a station on the air. So let's end with a big, kind of provocative question to chew on. If that last crucial mile to the transmitter is now just another IP network running the same tech as the rest of the internet, what's the real difference between a local TV station and a global streaming giant? The lines are getting blurrier every single day, and it really makes you wonder what's next for how we get our media.